Hey, it's Dustin with Boomers Outdoors, and I'm here today to talk about backpacking tents and answer the question, is it possible to get a good, not a great, but a good backpacking tent for less than $100? Well, I believe it is if you're willing to shop around, and I'm going to talk about two of those tents today. The first one you've heard me talk about before. Both of these are bestsellers on Amazon. This is the Coleman Sundrome two-person tent. I bought this tent 2 years ago on Amazon for $65. Just looking for a good backpacking tent to get me back out there because I wasn't sure if my wife and I were going to really want to do backpacking or not. And so I went online, I bought this tent, and it is a bestseller. So I'm going to do a review on it today, and then I'm going to show you another tent, which I think is even better than this. Incidentally, this tent is on sale right now on Amazon for $45.49. Steep and Cheap has it for $27, or you can find it at Academy Sports for I think $30. So it is a cheap tent. But I think this tent is a good option, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's get into it and break this tent down. So what do you get with this tent? Well, you get the tent, you get the fly that's with the tent. I'll take it out in just a moment. A carrying bag, 5 stakes. You get this little piece of material that acts as a doormat in front of the tent, and you get the poles also for this tent. Just to let you know, this tent weighs 6 pounds and 5 ounces, so it is heavy, and that's one of the drawbacks with this tent. But let's just break it down. I'll show you the tent body and the fly. So I've got this tent staked out. I normally don't stake it out because it is a freestanding tent, but it makes it a lot easier to put the poles in by yourself when it stakes out. These poles, they are fiberglass, and that is one of the weak points of this tent. With the fiberglass poles, they are heavy. These weigh 2 pounds and 3 ounces. There's 3 poles, 2 that crisscross and 1 for the fly. And I'll show you how that sets up easy in just a moment. But that is also a weak point in this tent. Fiberglass poles are not only heavy, if these were aluminum poles, they probably weigh about 1 pound, but they also are weak, weaker than aluminum. They do have a tendency to break when they get really cold. Well, let's set this puppy up. Setup on this tent is very easy. You just take the fiberglass poles, they crisscross through these sleeves. Sometimes this can be an aggravation getting them in there. You're going to push it through, and you're going to take this little pin right here, just stick it in the bottom of the pole, like that. Go over to the other side, pull your material through just a little bit, and you're going to do the same thing over here. Just put the pin in the pole, and then we've got one other sleeve. Okay, so setting up the poles is easy peasy, but one thing I do want to show you about this tent is that it does have limited ventilation. Let's just take a look at it. So you can see the 75D material, it comes up pretty high. So you do have ventilation on this end. There is a window on the back side and a vent down at the bottom that you can pull out. And ventilation on this end and the front window. But folks, that's a lot of fabric. Carrie and I have only used this tent when it's been cool outside. Usually the low temperatures have been in the 30s, even down in the 20s. And I found that this tent runs about 7 or 8 degrees warmer inside than the ambient temperature outside. But this tent is a warm tent. It's probably not ideal with this limited ventilation for summer. Also, when we've used it, it has not been really humid outside. So condensation could be an issue. I don't think it would be if you keep, at least one of the windows open. But keep in mind, this is probably not a really good summer tent. Well, let's get the fly on it. So the fly goes on really easy. Just slip your pole in here, and there's a couple of Velcro ties that help hold it on. So the fly goes on very easy. All we have are 4 hooks. They go right through the loops down at the bottom of the tent. And there it is. Doesn't take long to set this tent up. So as we make our way around to the Sundome 2-person tent, let's talk about the pros and cons. First pro is the price. $27, $30, or $45. For a 2-person tent that's actually waterproof, that is a steal of a deal. There are a lot of cheap tents out there, but most of them, they leak like a sieve when it rains. This tent does not leak. Pro number 2 is the material. 75D polyester is pretty good material. It's got pretty good durability. The floor on this thing is a 1000D polyethylene. That's like a tarp. So it is a pretty, it's not the best materials, but it's a good materials. Number 3 is the size of the tent. This tent is 7 feet long and 5 feet wide. Most of your 2-person backpacking tents on the market that are really good tents are about 48 inches wide. Some are 52, but this tent is about a foot wider. So it really is, at 60 inches wide, a 2-person backpacking tent. My wife and I use 25-inch pads, so we have plenty of room. We have 10 extra inches. So there's a little bit of move around room in this tent. Another good pro to this tent is the fact that it is a warm tent, which if you're camping in cooler weather, that's a plus. That also can be a con, and that's probably one of my first cons of this tent. It is a heavy material. There is limited ventilation, so in the summer you might bake alive in this tent. Another con to this tent is it only has one door. So if the person on the back side has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, guess what? They've got to crawl over the top of you. So that is a con. Number 3 is the fact that it is on the heavier side. Although if you divide it between 2 people, it works out to a little bit over 3 pounds each, which is not terrible. Another con to this tent is the fact it does not have vestibules. So this tent, if you're just looking for something to get you out there and keep you warm at a budget price, this tent is not a bad option. But for a little bit more money, I can tell you there are a lot better options out there. So let's look at another tent that I think beats this tent hands down for a little bit more money and is a great 2-person backpacking tent for those on a budget. Okay, so what tent is a much better deal than the Coleman 2-person Sundome tent? Well, it is a Lynx 2 by Alps Mountaineering. This tent I got on Amazon. Normally it's $179. I found it on Amazon for $65.97. And I want to show you all this tent has to offer. For the money, for $65, even for $100, this tent is a much better option. So let's break this thing down and see what it has to offer. So what do you get with the Lynx 2 by Alps Mountaineering? Well, first of all, you get this great compression stuff sack. Has compression straps on the side, has a wide open mouth, and inside it we get the tent, the fly, the poles, and stakes. Okay, the first thing I want you to see are the poles. These are 7000 series aluminum poles, much lighter than the fiberglass poles. These 2 poles together only weigh a pound. We also get 10 stakes. These stakes are lightweight aluminum, 70-75 aluminum. They are very lightweight, although they are a weak point with this tent. They do tend to bend if you hit hard ground. You get 2 guy ropes, heavy duty guy ropes. They could actually probably be thinner material, but they're nice. You get the tent body and you get a full ply with this tent. So let's get it staked out and I'll show you how it sets up. Now, one thing that makes this tent awesome is how easy it sets up. This thing sets up incredibly easy. So let me show you. I'm just going to put the poles together and set this thing up. Okay, so once you get your poles together, you're going to insert the end of this pole into the strap down here. I'm going to show you this strap up close because it is pretty neat. The end of the pole goes right into this hole. Very easy to set up. Once you get your 2 poles in, you're going to start by lifting up the center clip on the tent, clipping it over both poles, Then you start putting on your clips. Okay, now that we got the clips on, let's take a look around this tent. So you can see it has much more ventilation. The mesh comes down further on the sides. Each door has a permanent window that's open for ventilation, and it's bigger. So overall, the tent has more ventilation all the way around. If it looks bigger, it is bigger, and we'll go over the dimensions in a minute. But let's get the fly on. I want to show you how easy it is to put the fly on. It is simple. So to put the fly on, really all you have to do is line the doors up. You've got this door on this side, so this door over here must go on the other side. And I want to show you something that is really awesome about this tent, and that's how easy the fly clips on. Take a look at this. Okay, one thing that makes this tent really easy to set up is on the fly you have these buckles, and on your strap down here that your pole and your stake goes into, you have a little clip, and you simply just clip these together. I'm going to see if I can do it with one hand. I probably can. Well, not quite one hand. There. That is easy peasy. All four sides clip in that easy. Let me get them clipped in, and then we'll go over some more specs on the tent. Now all we have to do is stake out the vestibules. So we've got it set up. We've got the vestibule staked out. We don't have it guyed out. You have guy ropes here on each end. You can guy it out down here to give yourself extra ventilation coming up from the bottom. You also have two ridge vents, one on each end, that you can hold open with the Velcro stay. Lets ventilation come in from the top and the bottom, which is really good. I was worried about these leaking when it rained. A lot of tents that have these ridge vents do leak around the ridge vents. This tent did not leak. Now, if you had this open and you had 40-mile-an-hour driven rain coming through this way, you'd probably get some water up in there for sure. But I had it rain on it for 2 days with the ridge vents down, no leaking whatsoever, so that's good. So let's talk a little bit about the materials on this tent. This tent is made of a 75D 185T, which means it has a 185 thread count, polyester material on both the fly and the floor. The fly has a 1500 millimeter polyurethane coating. The floor has a 2000 millimeter polyurethane coating. Anything over 1000 millimeters is considered waterproof. So this tent is considered waterproof. Let's get in this thing and take a look at it. Another plus about this tent is it does have number 8 zippers, which are oversized zippers, and Velcro to help keep it open. I also like the fact that down here it has 2 straps, one for each side of the vestibule to hold it back. I think that is really neat. Let's roll the flies back. And let's go inside this thing. Oh, in case you're wondering, this is seam sealed from the factory. So all the seams are taped, which is another big plus. All right. Number 8 zippers again. They're large zippers. They're pretty smooth. So inside we have a storage pocket on each end, and we have also on the ceiling a gear caddy that is removable to help store your gear. Awesome benefits. So let's go inside. I'm 6'2" inches tall, or at least I used to be. I may not be quite that tall now. This is with my feet all the way to the bottom, and I can lay down here. You can see now right here I'm giving myself about 6 inches on my left side, and look at this. I've got That's reaching all the way out. I've got over 3 feet of room. This tent is 60 inches wide, which gives you plenty of room. It is actually 7.5 feet or 90 inches deep. Plus you have 2 vestibules. The vestibules go out 32 inches. So you've got plenty of room. This actually has 37 square feet of floor space. So awesome tent, plenty of room. So let me get out of here and I'll go over the pros and cons of this tent. Okay, so what are the pros and cons on the Lynx 2 tent? Well, first of all, you get a true 2-person backpacking tent. The inside dimensions of this tent, I said, are 90 inches in length, 60 inches in width. That gives you 37 square feet of living space, plus your vestibules come out 32 inches. I don't remember what exactly the square footage on there is, but there's plenty of storage on each vestibule. Which brings me to my second point. You get 2 doors, 1 on each side, which makes it really nice in the middle of the night if you have to go outside for any reason. Number 3, this tent is waterproof. It's got a 75D polyester material, which is not the most expensive material in the world, but it is a good material. It is waterproof, and it is pretty durable. It has a 1,500 millimeter head on the fly, 2,000 on the floor of the tent. So that's pretty good for this tent. Third thing about this tent is it's got pretty good ventilation. You've got fly ventilation. You've got ventilation down here if you guide out. Not the best ventilation in the world. This is probably better, even still, a cool weather tent, but it is an adequate tent. Number 3 is the price. Even if you paid $100 or $125 for this tent, that's a steal of a deal for this tent. You know, it is a true 2-person backpacking tent. $65.97 on Amazon. I didn't even need this thing, and I bought it just for that price, just to have a backup. So those are the real pros of this tent. This tent has a lot of good things going for it. It's not going to wear out. It's going to keep you safe in the outdoors. Now, one of the biggest cons on this tent, and probably the biggest con, is the weight of this tent. I didn't mention that, but this tent does weigh altogether 5 pounds and 12 ounces. Now I know my ultralight people just shuddered when I said 5 pounds, 12 ounces for this tent, because you can get 2-person backpacking tents. They're not as wide as this. Most of them are 48 inches or 52 inches in width that weigh 2 pounds or 3 pounds. But you're going to pay for those 2 or 3 pound tents. They're much thinner material, so they probably don't last as long, even though they're better grade materials. But you're paying $400, $500, $600 or more for those tents. This tent was 65 bucks. Now, if you're through hiking or you're an ultralight person, this tent is not for you. But if you just want a tent to get you in the outback, 3, 4, 5, 10 times a year, you and your spouse or your friend or whoever, you divide this thing up, it's less than 3 pounds a piece. So with my pack, it weighs less than 3 pounds. I got a 60-liter pack that weighs less than 3 pounds. Put 3 pounds in there, that gives me 6 pounds. My sleeping bag's 2 pounds, that's 8 pounds. My pad is a pound, 9 pounds. My cook kit is about a pound, that's 10 pounds. So for my big 3 and my cook set, I'm at 10 pounds. That gives me 10 pounds for everything else. Because I'm telling you, if I've got 20 pounds on my back, I can hike all day. But this is not something for somebody who's, going to go for a through hike and hike the Appalachian Trail or the CDT or one of those huge trails. You want something lighter than this. But if you're looking for something that's on a budget to get you out in the outback and protect you, this tent will get it done. I give it 2 thumbs up. For the money, you can't beat the Alps Mountaineering Lynx 2. Hey, thanks for watching my review on these 2 tents. I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up on the like button. Also, leave me a comment, especially if you've got one of these tents, and tell me what you think about them. Also, be looking for future reviews on gear as I get more gear and as I'm using it out on the trail. I like to do reviews on it from time to time. And also, I hope to see you out on the trail sometime. Until then, thanks for watching.
The sun is rising, your shadows fall behind.